format your name to the name of your agency dash your name. Also flash in the screen are the house rules. We will be flashing them on the screen. House rules and gentle reminders for everyone. There you go. So please be informed that this event will be recorded for documentation purposes. All participants will be muted upon their entry to the Zoom. While the presentation is ongoing, please use the chat box feature in the lower right corner of the Zoom app to post your questions and comments. All questions will be read and answered after the presentations and during the moderated stakeholder discussion. If you wish to speak during the Q&A and the moderated stakeholder discussion, kindly use the raise hand button and wait to be acknowledged before speaking. Good morning, everyone. I am Maria Ronelli Espina from the Climate Change Commission, and I will be your host for today's Knowledge Exchange on Extender Producer Responsibility, or EPR. On behalf of the Cabinet Cluster on Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation, Disaster Risk Reduction, we want to thank the World Bank Group through the team of Ms. Juno Shrestha and Ms. Agnes Balota for their continued support. As you may know, the government of the Philippines, through the Department of Finance and Climate Change Commission, sought their technical assistance on developing a roadmap towards zero single-use plastics and mainstreaming the principles of circular economy and sustainable consumption and production through technical analysis, knowledge products, and stakeholders engagement. Thank you, our partners, friends from the private sector, distinguished resource speakers, and everyone for gracing us with your presence today. I know we are all looking forward to a fruitful exchange on regulatory and policy experiences in relation to EPR that could provide practical guidance and reference for the Philippines. This important event will help us in crafting effective, affordable, and long-lasting measures to implement EPR in the country. To formally commence our program, may we call on the Department of Environment and Natural Resources Undersecretary for Finance, Information Systems, and Climate Change, Attorney Annalisa Revuelta Te, for her opening remarks.
For distinguished speakers, Assistant Secretary Paula Alvarez from the Department of Finance, Committee Secretary Attorney Dilbert Catulio of the Committee on Ecology of Congress, Mr. Crispian Lau from the Philippine Alliance for Recycling and Material Sustainability, Attorney Ina Gincona from the Worldwide Foundation for Nature Philippines, Mr. Voltaire Acosta from UN Habitat Philippines, Dr. Belia Atinza Win Mautun from the Institute of Global Environmental Strategies, esteemed professors from the Chungnam National University and Kyunggi University, South Korea, of course our partners from Climate Change Commission, especially Commissioner Rachel Herrera. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to all of you. With the increase in population, enhanced standard of living, economic growth and industrialization, especially in urban areas, the waste generation in the Philippines is expected to rise substantially. Projections by the DNR Environmental Management Bureau on waste generation indicate the increase from 21.4 million tons per year waste generated to 2020 to 23.6 million in 2025. Currently, waste management of plastic packaging in the Philippines is deemed insufficient, covering all steps from waste separation, collection, the operation of material recoveries until recycling. Enforcement and compliance with the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000 remains to be a challenging task owing to technical, political, and financial limitations of concerned agencies and local government units. The adoption of a policy and framework on extended producer responsibility is thus a promising tool to address the plastic waste problem that will hold manufacturers accountable for their plastic products and packaging's end-of-life impacts. The waste management in the country and its legal framework allows for the integration of EPR into the overall system once an EPR bill has been enacted. Efforts to introduce the EPR include House Bill 9147, also known as the Single-Use Plastics Regulation Act, which aims to promote plastic circularity through reduce, reuse, and recycle practices, as well as the EPR. Senate Bill 2425 and House Bill 10696, or the EPR Bill of 2022, focus on institutionalizing EPR schemes to tackle the plastic waste problem and prevent plastic waste from leaking into the environment, and amending the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. Said EPR bill stipulates that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources shall formulate a national EPR framework for all types of product waste within 3 months of its enactment. Since EPR policies and schemes and its operationalization vary from place to place, the Philippines welcomes the lessons learned and best practices from other countries to ensure the effective implementation of our very own EPR system. The Republic of Korea, which introduced its EPR system for packaging in 2003, is viewed as a regional role model of sustainable waste management in Asia, having significantly increased its recycling while yielding economic stimulus with less material value being disposed of and a positive effect on employment. We express our deep appreciation for the willingness of the Republic of Korea to guide the conceptualization and potential implementation of an EPR system in the Philippines. We look forward to a fruitful cooperation with you as we explore and exchange ideas to collectively address the pressing issue of plastic waste in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Te. May we now call on Department of Finance Assistant Secretary, Attorney Paula Sharina A. Alvarez, to deliver her welcome address.
Okay. So, colleagues from government, members of this meeting, good morning. And on behalf of Secretary Dominguez and the Department of Finance, we thank the World Bank Group and Korea for hosting this exchange of views. So, as you may know, the Philippines is one of the most highly vulnerable countries to the effects of climate change, and that we are sinking 4 times faster than all the other countries in the world. Approximately 0.75 million metric tons of waste is generated every year by the Philippines, and we are ranked 3rd in the world as one of the most biggest polluters of the oceans. Being an archipelago and most of our rural communities situated in coastal areas, it is now more than ever that we need to act to curb this waste pollution. So we thank the Republic of Korea for also providing us insights on how to properly manage waste. And we welcome both initiatives from both houses of Congress for being proactive as well in ensuring the sustainability and management of our environmental resources, as well as the safekeeping of the purity of our waters. So we hope through this engagement, we come to set aside our differences and come to terms with what we can do to actually solve the plastic pollution. So what we have been saying in the Department of Finance is climate change is more than ever becoming an economic problem, not just for the environment, but because of the increasing consumption patterns and the increasing population of the Filipinos, it is now more than ever that we need to make amendments to our laws to ensure that we are forward-looking and that we can guarantee that our natural resources would still be in existence for our future generations to use. So with that, we thank our partners from government, our multilateral partners, our non-government organizations present here today, as well as our social representatives, and we wish everyone a fruitful discussion, and we hope that this is a conducive meeting. So again, thank you everyone, and we wish everyone a good day.
Thank you so much, Assistant Secretary Alvarez, for the warm welcome and encouraging message. Before we give the floor to our next speaker, may we request everyone to open their cameras for a quick photo opportunity.
May we request everyone to open their cameras? So we have 5 pages. So for the first page, 1, 2, 3. Second page, 1, 2, 3. Next page. Kindly open your cameras, please. 1, 2, 3. Photos taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Now to give us an overview of the current waste management landscape in the Philippines and the current status and plans for adopting a national EPR program, it is our pleasure to invite the Committee Secretary of the Committee on Ecology of the House of Representatives, Attorney Dilbert Ketulio, as our next speaker.
Good morning to all of you. Can I share my screen now? All right. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you so much. Good morning to all of you, to the Secretary of the Department of Finance, Honorable Carlos G. Dominguez, and of course, Assistant Secretary Alvarez, Undersecretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Attorney Annalisa Te, Commissioner of the Climate Change Commission, Ms. Rachel Ann Herrera, Professor Yong Chul Jang of Chungnam National University of Korea, Professor Hyung Wee Ri of Kyunggi University, Ms. Sarina Constantino Panopio of the WWF Philippines, Mr. Christopher Rollo, Country Program Manager of the United Nations Human Settlement Program, Commissioner Crispian Lau, Vice Chairperson of the National Solid Waste Management Commission, Ms. Jovinia P. Serafin, Division Chief, Solid Waste Management Division of the DNR, to our stakeholders, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Again, a pleasant morning to all of you. Indeed, it is my esteemed honor to be invited to this forum and to share Congress legislative undertaking on extended producer responsibility or EPR policy, and to benefit richly from the discussions on best practices, among other things that will be shared to us by our other speakers. Well, the consolidated version of Senate and House EPR bills, as I mentioned by the good Undersecretary, Senate Bill 2425 and House Bill 10696, they were consolidated by the members of Joint Bicameral Conference Committee, which was created for the purpose. The same was approved. The approved consolidated version was ratified by the Senate and the House, for your information, just last Monday and yesterday, respectively. So it is expected that the President of the Republic will soon sign the enrolled bill of the EPR. As to the EPR policy in the Philippines, I will be very brief and straight to the main essential points of the measure that were manageably, I should say, agreed on by both houses of Congress. Let me start on the legislative approach that the Congress has opted. Both houses, instead of coming up with a separate bill, chose to introduce EPR policy by way of amendment to an existing law, or the RA 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. So Congress created another chapter in that law, referred to in the bill as Chapter 3A. This will cover EPR in general, that is EPR for all types of products or products waste, and for all types of enterprises. And under this chapter, Article 1 is provided. This directs the DNR or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, in consultation with the National Solid Waste Management Commission, to establish a national framework on EPR for all types of product waste. The framework shall cover two main approaches of EPR, the upstream and downstream solutions. On the upstream, the EPR framework intends to implement the reduction of non-environment friendly products and provided therefore different strategies. Well, this is strategy. This is strategy. Hello. All right, if I may continue now. Well, this would include methods or strategies like the adoption of reusable products or redesign of products to improve its reusability, recyclability, or retrievability, and it shall also have a viable reduction rates plan, among other things. And on the downstream, the framework will focus on the recovery of product waste to prevent it from leaking to the environment. This aims to adopt and programs that will implement important strategies like the waste recovery schemes through redemption, buyback, offsetting, or any method or strategy that will efficiently result in high retrievability, high recyclability, and resource recovery of waste products. Well, diversion of recovered waste into value chains and value-adding useful products through recycling and other sustainable methods is also included, such as as well as the transportation of recovered waste to the appropriate composting, recycling facilities, and other diversion or disposal site in the country. And also the cleanup of waste leaked to the coastal areas, public roads, and other sites. Well, I forgot to state there that the downstream will also include a gateway to the establishment of other facilities, recycling, and other value-adding or diversion facilities whenever the investment, therefore, is probable. Then after that article for the formulation of the framework for all types of waste products, the bill under Article 2 now provides EPR, and this time very specific to plastic packaging. This article stipulates precise recovery targets for product footprint that covered enterprises have to recover and divert into value-adding useful products. And as a last resort, transport its residual waste to proper disposal facilities. And of course, as you can see, specific recovery targets are as follows. We have the 20% by December 31, 2023, 40% 2024, 50 by 2025, up to 80% by December 31, 2028, and every year thereafter. Now, the next question would be, who are the covered enterprises? Here, the Senate and House versions differ. The latter intends to cover both medium and large enterprises, while the Senate's large only. We say that one is a large enterprise if the value of its asset exceeds 1 million, as so provided by RA 9501, or otherwise known as the Magna Carta for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Well, I believe it was in the light of Congress' desire to pursue fast recovery for MSMEs, or the micro, small, and medium enterprises, that it contained the compliance with the said recovery targets to large enterprises only. However, these enterprises shall still be covered to some reasonable extent under the EPR framework that will be established and implemented pursuant to Article 1 of the bill. It is important to note that the requirement for large enterprises, insofar as their responsibility to recover plastic product waste, shall be enforced with or without the framework established under Article 1. In fact, these enterprises, whether individually or collectively or through producer responsibility organization, these enterprises are required to establish and phase in EPR programs and to register the same with the National Solid Waste Management Commission within 6 months following the effectivity of the law. Also, you might wonder, Article 2 is also specific on the types of plastic packaging products that it covers. Well, generally, this refers to products utilized to carry, protect, or pack goods for transportation, distribution, and sale. And specifically, these shall include sachets, labels, laminates, and other flexible packaging products, whether single layer or multi-layered with plastic or other materials. Likewise, rigid plastic packaging products are included, whether layered with any other materials, which include containers, beverages, food, home, personal care, and cosmetic products. well, including their covering, caps, lids, and well, I have to emphasize this, other necessities or promotional items such as cutlery, plates, drinking straws, or sticks, tarps, signage, or labels. Well, it shall include, of course, the plastic bags, which necessarily include the single-use plastic bags for carrying or transporting of goods and provided or utilized at the point of sale. And of course, polystyrene. We know that this EPR policy might be cumbersome to many. However, it is worth highlighting here that the bill provides an appealing incentive, that is the recovery cost suffered by registered enterprises, whether micro, small, medium, or large companies, as long as their EPR is registered, they shall be 100. These costs, recovery costs, shall be 100% deductible from their gross annual income. Well, I believe that would be the EPR policy of the country in a gist, relatively, and at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Ketulio, for providing a comprehensive discussion on the status of Philippine EPR policies at the legislative level. We thank you for your efforts together with your Senate counterparts to advance the EPR bill this 18th Congress. At this point, we will be taking a hard look at what are the possible roadblocks and challenges for EPR on plastic waste in the Philippines. It is our pleasure to give the floor to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Environmental Management Bureau, OIC Chief of the Solid Waste Management Division, Jovinia P. Serafin, DMD.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the honorable officials and delegation from Korea and from the Philippines. My name is Jovinia P. Serafin, and I was designated as OIC of the Solid Waste Management Division of the DNR Environmental Management Bureau this January 2022. Our office is honored to present the 10-minute information on the current waste management landscape in the Philippines and the case of adopting a national EPR program. Okay po. So next slide po. The Philippines Solid Waste Management Law is the Republic Act number 9003, otherwise known as the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. It was approved in 2001 and now on its 21st year of implementation. In the implementation of the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, the national government agencies and the local government units are mandated to follow, enforce, and implement the ecological solid waste management hierarchy, where emphasis should be on waste avoidance. If you can see this illustration on the right side, the emphasis should be on waste avoidance, ideally reduction, reuse, recycling, and recovery of waste materials. And then for the last preferred options, when all activities to recover resources have been exhausted and implemented, shall include treatment and residual waste management. So meaning, the solid waste management law of our country emphasizes on optimum recovery of resources prior to waste disposal, which is also being presented by the local government units in their proposed 10-year solid waste management plans. Next slide, please. So the illustration here shows that the solid waste management system prescribes under Republic Act number 9003. All sources, including the households, if you can see here the illustration from the households, the institutions, the commercial establishments are required to segregate their waste at source, implement separate or compartmentalized collection of the different types of waste, including the biodegradable waste, the recyclables, the residuals or the non-recyclables, and the special or the household hazardous waste. Special waste, which is also classified as the hazardous, is also covered by another law, which is RA 6969, or the Act to Control the Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste. In the implementation of waste management process, buyback centers should also be established to ensure recovery of resources. So in line with the implementation of the EPR, Section 28 of RA 9003 mandates the National Ecology Center to assist the LGUs in establishing and implementing deposit or reclamation programs in coordination with the manufacturers, the recyclers, and generators to provide separate collection systems or convenient drop-off locations for recyclable materials, and particularly for separated toxic components of the waste stream like dry cell batteries and tires to ensure that they are not incinerated or disposed of in the landfill. So this has been mandated by RA 9003, and for this year we are trying to propose activities or target activities for the next year, the CY 2023, in supporting local government units in starting to establish these buyback centers. Next slide, please. So for 2022, our projected solid waste generation by the end of 2022 would be 22 million tons. And around 3.5 or 3.6 will come from Metro Manila or the National Capital Region. Next slide, please. And based on our waste analysis and characterization, most of the waste generated in the country are biodegradable waste, which accounts to 52.31% of the composition. And then we have around 28% are recyclables, 18% are residuals, and the remaining would be special waste. So as you can see here, around 11% of the recyclable waste are plastic wastes. So the sources of solid waste in the country includes around 57% coming from the households, and then 27% are coming from the commercial establishments, 12% are coming from the institutional establishment, and then 4.3 would be from the industrial sources. Next slide, please. So for the status of our disposal facilities, fortunately, last year, we were able to close down all operating open dump sites. These are around 335 dump sites, open dump sites, but we still have to monitor the proper rehabilitation of this closed dump sites, since we have also issued a department order on the proper rehabilitation of open dump sites. We also have around 273 sanitary landfills in the country, and servicing around 524 local government units, which is around 32%. It's although it's slowly increasing, but at least we know that the status of disposal management in the country is improving. So we have also tapped, for the information of everyone, we have also tapped or created, mobilized the creation of the Coalition of Solid Waste Management Providers. These are private sector operators that are helping us in establishing or putting up disposal facilities in different parts or different regions in the country. For the next slide, please. So you can see here the status of materials recovery facility where every barangay should establish. We only have around 11,738 reported materials recovery facility that are serving 16,817 barangays, which is merely 40% compliance versus the total number of barangays in the country. So we're still slowly improving in the establishment and recovery of our resources by the barangays. So our 10-year solid waste management plan has accelerated the increase of its approval through the submission of the plans by the local government units. So as of April 2022, we have 68% or 1,175 local government units in the country, including the Bangsamoro region, have approved 10-year solid waste management plan. Yes, okay. So for the next slide, please. So this would be the composition of the approvals of the plans. We have 1,175 are approved, and then 476 have been submitted to the EME regional offices and to the central office, but still lacking additional information for its approval. And then we have still 65 that are yet to be submitted by the local government units, if this is including the Bangsamoro region. However, if only from CAR to Region 13, we have 1,131 approved plans, which is already 71% compliance of the local government units. And then we have only 4 remaining plans that are to have to be submitted by these LGUs, or 0.25% of the compliance by local government units. For the next slide, please. The DNR is fully supporting the Senate Bill 2425 and the consolidated bill of the House of Representatives. So through the EPR, the obliged companies have the responsibility for the proper and effective recovery, the treatment, recycling, and disposal of their products after they have been sold and used by consumers to reduce packaging waste generation and improve the recyclability and reusability of packaging waste. Under Section 9 of the SB 2425, the National Ecology Center shall further review and update the list of non-environmentally acceptable products and plastic material for elimination, especially those that cannot be effectively recycled, consistent with Section 29 of RA 9003. So we just would like to inform everyone that we welcome assistance, we welcome technical assistance and support so that we can strengthen and implement fully the National Ecology Center. Next slide, please. So the EMB director, who is also the head of the NEC, has instructed us to prepare this organizational structure for the NEC, where it is under the National Solid Waste Management Commission, and in relation to the DNR as the chair of the commission, it is also the Environmental Management Bureau, which is also under the DNR and headed by the EMB director, is also the executive director of the National Solid Waste Management Commission Secretariat. So the EMB basically provides the secretariat support to the National Solid Waste Management Commission, and also the EMB director is heading the National Ecology Center, which is also under the National Solid Waste Management Commission. So you can also see here the interrelation among the REC, or the Regional Ecology Center, which are being headed by the regional directors in their ex officio capacity. So this is the existing structure of the NEC. For the next slide, please. Update on the non-environmentally acceptable products. So the Commission issued resolution number 1428 declaring the plastic soft drink straw and the plastic coffee stirrer as non-environmentally acceptable products. This resolution was approved on February 2, 2021 and was published in the Daily Tribune on September 29, 2021. In the resolution, it was resolved that the guidelines, including the specification and the phase-out period of the said NAIAP list, will be issued 1 year after publication in a national paper of national circulation. So the department initiated the drafting of guidelines on the phase-out schedule of the plastic soft drink straw and plastic coffee stirrer declared as NAIAP, which is also in compliance with the resolution of the Commission. So for the next slide, please, the EMB, as the Secretariat to the Commission, has been conducting the public consultation on the phase-out schedule of this plastic soft drink straw and plastic coffee stirrer starting April 28. So we have already completed the consultations for NCR, CAR 1, for the regions in Luzon. And then we have completed yesterday the consultation with the stakeholders in the Visayas region. So for June 8, we'll be conducting the consultation for the Mindanao stakeholders, and in June 28, 2022, as requested by the recycling industry sector, we are conducting the consultation with the industry. Okay, so for the next slide, please, the last slide. Items for study, we have to conduct the life cycle assessment of plastics prior to banning. We cannot just identify this single-use plastics as non-environmentally acceptable products unless it is based on this study. So in the pipeline, we have budget allocation for 2023 for plastic cups, and then for thin film sandbags. And then for this year, the Department of Science and Technology is conducting already the LCA for the plastic cutleries, spoons, forks, knives, and the plastic labo, which we use to when we buy rice in our canteens. So that would be the last slide. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Seraphine. So indeed, these discussions have provided much clarity as to why there is a need for a rock-solid EPR policy that will aid our primary implementing agencies and partners in collecting and managing plastic waste more effectively. So at this point, we will open the floor for question. Actually, I was told we will just be accommodating one question. And there is already a question in the chat box. If I may read the question. So this is if Ms. Seraphine can answer this question from Sir Jasper Sveningsen. If I may read the question. The Philippines is the first and thus far the only country in the world with a national ban on incineration. Following the passage of two landmark laws nearly 20 years ago, the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999 and the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. With the huge technical progress in the incineration process, the pollution from professional incineration is very clean. Any consideration to change the law to allow incineration as long as it is done in waste management plants that are run to a certain international standard?
Thank you very much for that clarification or inquiry. There is already a Supreme Court order to clarify that the incineration is not, there's not a full or total ban on incineration. The ban is only for those that are emitting hazardous pollutants. Now on RA 903, it was indicated as part of the policy of the state that it does not ban, but it says that incineration is not a best ecological solid waste management practice. So we have plans, we have programs, activities, and targets to conduct the consultations for the amendment of RA 903. It may be discussed in these consultations. But at the moment, it does not say in the RA 903 that its incineration is banned, but it is considered as, it is not considered as an environmental best practice. I hope I clarified your query. I provide clarification on your query.
Thank you, Ms. Serafine. And I guess we have to acknowledge the PPIA President, Mr. Danny Ngo. He raised his hand. Sir Danny.
Hello, yes. No. Hello?
Yes po, go ahead po. We can hear you po.
Yeah. I would like to ask kasi, one thing is the other day of this. Right now, we have a new PNS standard for biodegradability. And just recently, there is a UK firm that's introducing their product to innovate and then make plastic more biodegradable, which passed the international UK standard and local standards. Can we consider that prior to passing of the NAFDs? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will be conducting consultations prior to banning of any items that will be subject to NAIAP in the future. Right now, we are still conducting the consultation for only 2 items to clarify, only the plastic soft drink straw and the plastic coffee sealer. The other items would have to first be identified by the commission, and then it has to pass to a life cycle analysis and consultation, including your sector.
Yeah. Ma'am, if I may ask also, one thing more, there's a difference between pyrolysis and incineration. They're 2 different things. The current WTE now that we're being used worldwide is based on the pyrolysis technology. So I think there should be a clarification on this one. Incineration is, almost the same, but incineration is open air with sometimes, but pyrolysis is an enclosed oxygen-free environment. So I think those are 2 different things. And as the kind gentleman has already said, that we are the only country here in Asia that doesn't have it. Singapore has already 4. Hong Kong has 2. China has a lot. Japan has a lot also. So I hope that we could reconsider this, as this could be also a part of our the way we can solve our waste problem and also the climate change problem. Because landfill, as per se, emits methane gas, which is much more dangerous, much more aggressive climate change gas than compared to CO2 or something like that. Methane is a lot more deadlier. So I think we have to consider this one.
Yes, sir. Is that for me? Thank you
Also
very
as
much.
one thing
po.
also in this
Yes.
product.
Yes, but thank you very much, sir. In fact, we did not say that pyrolysis is banned. There's no statement in RA 903 that we are banning pyrolysis na po. In fact, we have proposals for 2023 for the assistance to local government units for the establishment of either pyrolysis or gasification, whichever would be approved by the DBM or the Congress, sir. So that would,
Yes, ma'am.
that would help the local government units not only in managing this plastic waste, but also in the management of the COVID-19 related waste.
Ma'am, if I may ask also, the EPR currently abroad, that's been in Europe and everything, covers almost all things. How come here in the Philippines, it's only EPR is targeted on the plastic? Won't it be, this is just a question, won't it be detrimental na magiging, it won't be one way kasi may plastic has EPR, I would just shift to another product. So it would just kill our purpose of climate change and everything. It might worsen it. So can we restudy it this properly and then implement it wholly? Sayang ba? Like in what happened in the RA 9003, it's 20 years. Until now, it's only around 70% implemented. So now is the opportunity, as the kind secretary has done. Sayang yung pinagsimulan niya and everything. Let's maintain that momentum. And sana in general natin, let's do the lasting solution. Let's have a foresight. Hindi lang yung, ito plastic lang ngayon. Ito mamaya. Mamaya, it will just, Ninas Kogon, mangyayari sa atin. Wala. It will do more harm than good. I hope we could do it more rigidly and everything. Even Korea is implementing EPR in wholly, not only on single, not only on plastic. Even Korea is implementing EPR on as a whole. So I hope we can study it more closely and do more diligent on this one. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Danny. If Attorney Dilbert would want to answer that concern raised by Sir Danny. You're on mute po, sir.
Well, under the Clean Air Act, incineration per se is not banned, di ba? As long as it will meet our current standards insofar as the emissions of these facilities are concerned. So, but somehow I would agree that there is confusion among investors whether we are banning really the incineration. So that's why in the House of Representatives, we are really trying to come up with a legislation that would clarify whether we are banning or not. Well, there was a bill approved by the House, the committee, and by the House of Representatives clarifying this. It was titled a regulation on the use of a thermal treatment technology, but it was overtaken by time. But perhaps in the next Congress, under the leadership of our new Speaker and new President and Vice President, this bill will really address the concern of Mr. Daningong. And on the coverage of the EPR, we have provided that in the bill we have covered all product waste. So that's why under Article 1 of the Chapter 3A, we are requiring, the bill is requiring the DNR to come up with a framework so we can cover all enterprises and all products waste in a reasonable extent. Well, bahala na sila sa ganun. But it just so happened that the Congress really opted to come up with a recovery targets for plastic packaging products. Well, more precisely that these are the most problematic waste leaking to the environment, marine, and specifically to our surroundings. So that's why it has stipulated specific recovery targets for these kinds of waste. And as to there is also one question, whether on the rigid plastic packaging. Well, I mentioned that rigid plastic packaging products will be covered, whether these are layered with other materials or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Dilbert. So participants may chat their questions in the chat box, and we encourage the resource speakers to monitor the chat box and respond there, as well as we will still be having the moderated stakeholder discussion later on. So now let us proceed with the discussions on sustainable plastic waste management through EPR in South Korea. It is our great honor to welcome a distinguished professor from Korea, Professor Young Chul-jang. Professor Young Chul-jang is currently teaching environmental engineering in Chungnam National University and serving as a policy advisor in the Korea Ministry of Environment. The floor is yours, Professor Young Chul-jang.
Let me share my screen. Can I share my screen, please?
Yes, sir.
All right. So can you see my screen, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Yong-Chul Jang from Chungnam National University, South Korea, and it's a great honor for me to present the topic sustainable plastic waste management by EPR system in Korea. And I'd like to focus on success and key factors due to limited time. So I think I have about 15 minutes, and then another 15 minutes, Professor Lee will present some recommendations and our experiences. And again, it's a great honor and good opportunity to share our knowledge with many experts and policymakers in the Philippines, and I hope we continue to share our knowledge and experiences to implement the EPR system for the plastic waste in the Philippines. And before I start my presentations, and the Korea population is 51 million, and I know the your Philippines about almost double, and more than 100 millions. And in the slides, in 1980, our GDP per capita was only 3,700. And over the 4 decades, it's almost 10 times higher than 40 years ago. And so after Korean War, 1950, and then since I think 1970 and 80, there was a very rapid and economic growth over the for 5 decades. And then of course water pollution and solid waste management was a hot topic, and there's an urgent problem along with the growth of economy in Korea. So EPR is one of the key tool to avoid the pollutions, as well as recover all the recyclable material. So I think I can share some of the experiences and characteristics and key factors of successful EPR system. So plastic waste is a huge problem, not only just many low-income and middle-income country, but also Korea and in Japan and Europe, many other high-income countries as well. And so lots of plastic waste going into the landfills and incinerations. In the world is only 9%, but so we need to solve this plastic waste problem. So how do we solve this plastic waste? You know, banning and prohibition of the use of plastic, that's the one option, but this is not, you know, a good solution. It's not only solution. So I think EPR is one popular policy in many high-income, especially high-income country, for collection and recycling of waste material. So producers have to involve or take more responsibility for their product. In the past, they just make and produce and sell their product. That's it. But no, for the maybe late 90 or early 2000s, so some of the high income or country starts regulating collection and recycling of waste material by the manufacturers or suppliers and even importers. So they do have more extended responsibility for their product. That's the basic concept. And the packaging and electronics is the major our target types. And as you can see, for these figures, a lot of EPR systems have been increasing over time. So in Korea, we started EPR system 2003. So it's almost 20 years operation and implementations. And we are keep adding more products and more target items. So this year we are adding another 15 products, especially like a plastic product. So we are keep adding and keep regulating this plastic and plastic packaging waste. And so EPR, this is the definitions. As you can see, they have to collect and recycle their assigned quantity of their products by national governments. So, like annually, the producer put their product on the market, and then based on that market sales, they have to certain percentage. They have to collect a certain percentage of their product by collection and recycling. These are the packaging material and product, but this is just a group. But in each item, there is a very specific and detailed item. For example, for the packaging by EPR system, this foamed plastic, polyvinyl chloride PVC items, and PET bottles, and polystyrene papers, and P and PP PS bottles, and vinyl, and many other plastic packaging item. And in this figure, you can see there is a certain recycling target. You can see here, for example, PET bottle. PET bottle is almost 80%. So make sure PET bottle producers, they sell, let's say, 10,000 tons of PET bottle. They make sure 2021 or this year, they have to almost 80%. They have to collect of their PET bottle products. So, and these other recycling target you can see here, and how EPR system is operated in Korea. There is a Korea Ministry of Environment here, and another government, semi-government sector is a Korea Environmental Corporation, as here. This is a government's area, and this is a producer. So producer actually pay their recycling costs. Then this producer responsibility organization and KORA recycling agency, they kind of distribute recycling costs money to recycler and sorting facility, and consumer make sure they have to separate all the recyclable by laws. And so local government and private collector, they collect recyclable, sending to the sorting and recycling. And then so recycler make sure follow all the recycling guidelines. This is some kind of a big picture of EPR system in Korea. And so KORA, they they get supporting recycling fee from producers, and then they distribute all the money and supporting the economic incentive for collectors and recycler. And they also reported their recycling rate and collection rate and all other performance to the semi-government Korea Environmental Corporation. This is like some kind of a financial mechanism by EPR system in Korea. So let me tell you about the some of the achievement of plastic recycling by EPR system. So as I said, plastic collection is very important. So a consumer should play a significant role of source of separation. So plastic separate like drinking bottle, PET bottles, and all the plastic containers and plastic films and polystyrene, containers. So these are the source of separations by consumer, and then sending to the sorting facilities to transferring to the recycling facility, and then they make all the recyclable into recycled products. So these are some plastic management flow. And here in Korea, there is all the sorting sites, and so the household can separate their recyclable at the designated area, and all the food waste they have to separate bottles and recyclable, and on this disposable waste can be disposed here for incineration and landfill. So here are some pictures. You can see all the recyclable plastic separated by manually and mechanically, and then you can see a PET bottle, sorted PET bottle by sorting process, dewatering, washing, shredding, and then the final recycled product such as sheets, textile fibers, and PET wire, things like that. And these are the P and PPPS recycling process, and they make some kind of recyclable plastic, as you can see in this table. Even the plastic waste can be converted into the plastic oil, recovered oil for power generation. So these are the common example in Korea. And also a lot of plastic wastes can be used as auxiliary fuels, solid refuse fuel. So these are the energy fuel sending to the power plants and paper mills and cement kilns. So as energy recovery. And also these are some recycled plastic example you can see in here. So over the almost 20 years, our plastic packaging recycling kept increasing, as you can see here. So almost about 1 million ton of plastic packaging waste recycled. So the blue indicate that's the national target, the obligated rate by EPR system, and the orange color is actual recycled amount. So mostly all the recycling target exceeded, as you can see in this table. And so our recycling rate by EPR is almost 60%, and then incineration is only about 20 or 25%, and still we have a very minimal rate of landfilling, as you can see here. And so by EPR system, we created economic value about 300 million US dollars economic benefits created. It's been keep increasing, as well as also job creations. Or you can see about per year about more than 3,000 new job or job is created here in these figures. So lessons and successful factors. As a summary, there are the key lessons we learned. And so government should prepare the so make sure clear and mandatory legal framework, and so clear policy targets and transparency, and also some financial mechanisms supporting system. And we make sure check the performance of EPR system. If a producer who do not fail, who do not follow the meet their obligation, they have to pay penalties, some kind of fines, more than the recycling cost. So we do have so each recycling cost of plastic waste by EPR system. And so integrated plastic waste management is also very important. EPR should be, as I said, the collection is very important, sourcing separation is important, recycling technology and infrastructure also important. So we have to all the policies should be integrated. So participation of many stakeholders, and allocation and roles of responsibility by stakeholder monitoring, evaluation, transferring. So you can see these are the quick summary. And as I said, this EPR system is kind of focused on collection and recycling, but in order to successfully implement the consumption, source of separations, and production also is very important. So eco-friendly product should be manufactured at the upstream, and the downstream also should be make sure we have to good like recycle products production. So these are the kind of life cycle concept is very important. So more detail, more specific lessons, and then operation system. You can see, I think this report will be available to the Philippines. This study was conducted with supported by the World Bank, and more EPR system and implementation and key recommendation you can find in their documents. So the plastic waste is such a huge topic, and I think in order to manage this plastic waste is eventually this good well-being and good health and responsible consumption, production, of course, and sustainable city and community. So everything is kind of very related to the sustainable development goals. So, okay, I think in summary, so EPR is not just a simple solution. It's very complicated. It's not just magic bullets. You make sure that other waste management tools and policy also important and it should be integrated in a efficient economic way. And I presented some achievements and positive aspects and lessons learned by EPR system over the 20 years. Thank you for your attention. So now I'd like to introduce Professor Lee, and he's going to present some recommendation and suggestion for the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Professor Yong-Chul Jang, for that very informative discussion on the EPR system and operation in Korea, as well as plastic collection and recycling in your country. We appreciate the clear figures and processes shown for us to take in and analyze in terms of the Philippine context. May I have the honor to introduce our next speaker. He is Professor of Environment, Energy System, Engineering in Kyunghee University and also serves as the Editor-in-Chief of Journal of Material Cycles and Waste Management of Korea, Basel Forum by the Korea Ministry of Environment. Please join me in welcoming Professor Song Wee Ri.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Song-hee Ri, working in Kyunghee University. I'm so happy to make a presentation, knowledge exchange on extended producer responsibility between Philippines and Korea. Today, I'd like to talk about the suggestion and challenges on EPR policy in the Philippines. This is table of contents. I got some suggestion, the proposed EPR policy in the Philippines, key point on Korean EPR system, and challenges on EPR in the Philippines. In fact, Korea is very, very poor country on resources and energy. Almost 95% of resources and raw material and energy came from foreign countries. So recycling of waste, resources recirculation is very important in Korea. EPR system has a strong power to recycle the waste because producers and importers has more responsibility to recycle their product. Stakeholders got the responsibility. All stakeholders got the role and responsibility, but producer and importers have more responsibility. It should be recognized that collection and recycling in the EPR system are more profitable under the jurisdiction of local government with beneficial incentive. You must understand EPR system has more profitable. In Korea, the EPR system was operated successfully from 2003. And Professor Jang already mentioned about history of EPR system in Korea. It is almost 20 years. So key point of EPR system in Korea can apply to the proposed EPR system in the Philippines to divert the recycling stream from the informal sector to formal sectors. Professor Jang already mentioned the recycling rate in Korea is about 60% due to the EPR system. So this is the river in Rabota City was contaminated by the solid waste. Also, the ocean and coastal area was polluted by the single-use plastics in Freedom Island in Philippines. The Philippine government proposed the EPR policy, I think. And Attorney Quetilius and mentioned about a lot of regulation and policy and law and the strategies but the EPR system is not fully regulated for implementation in Philippines, I think. Also, the EPR system related to the proposed policies and House Bill and Senate Bill 2425. It is already mentioned by Attorney Kiet Liu. So I'd like to suggest at the long-term policy of EPR system, decision of the recycling target rate, such as 40% in second year and 80% in 5 years, it may not be desirable because it should be decided to discuss with stakeholders based on the infrastructure of recycling in the Philippines. In the EPR Act, the role and responsibility of stakeholders should be identified to improve the recycling target rate. There are so many stakeholders in the EPR system. That means there are so many conflicts between stakeholders. It should be considered by the government, central government and local government to implement the EPR system in Philippines. Specifically, the role and responsibility of producers and importers should be clearly defined to build the infrastructure of recycling of their product. Under the EPR Act, the finance flow and control of collection and recycling system should be identified with beneficial incentives to improve recycling rate in the formal sectors. So we have the key point in Korean EPR system. The first one is identification of stakeholders. I already mentioned about the so many stakeholders. They got the some kind of they want to earn something from EPR system. So identification of role and responsibility was very important. Also, PRO in the group of producers and KORA and group of collectors and recyclers should be established. In Korea, we have the mono PRO system, and this is to avoid the significant competition with induction of improper recycling cost in the recycling market. Another one is the recycling target setting. It should be decided by the cooperation between PRO and central government every year. And finally, one is transparency and financial flow. PRO manages the overall financial flow based on the performance of collection and recycling. And KORA report the performance of collection and recycling to both PRO and government agency. Also, government agency and government verify the performance of collection and recycling. This is flow diagram of Korean EPR system. Professor Chang already mentioned about this one, so I like to emphasize. And A means this is whole area of stakeholders, identification of stakeholders, and role and responsibility should be set. The B means is the producer responsibility organization. We have the mono PRO. And C means this one is the flow of recycling system. And producer, distributor, consumer, collector, recycler, they got the responsibility. Also, they got the role. So it's working together to decide the recycling target and discussion among the stakeholders. And challenges on EPR system in Philippines. First one is it is necessary to consider current recycling situation in both formal and informal sectors. I think the recycling waste or management of waste was carried out in formal sectors mainly. So I like to suggest the four elements already mentioned about that. Also, I like to suggest the demonstration project of EPR in Philippines, and to identify and overcome the relevant limitations. In order to introduce the full scale of EPR system, the relevant law should be revised or reorganized by reflecting the result of the demo project of EPR. So this is the scheme of demonstration project of EPR system. The producer cannot control by the local government and produce controlled by the central government, because central government got the big power and control the producers and importers. And local government control this part is the informal sectors, collectors and recyclers. They got some kind of collector and recycling group, and then they make some kind of reporting system to report the PRO and local government. In Philippines, the local government role is very important instead of central government. Philippines, their territory is too wide. So it is difficult to control by the central government, I think. So working together, central government and local government working together for demonstration project of EPR system. So this one is implementation of EPR demonstration project. It's the 7 steps. I didn't make the total 7 steps, but I mentioned the local green companies supported by the local government, because it is difficult to find the collector and recyclers initially. So they want to join to EPR system by some kind of name of local green companies. And that is the pioneer of circular economy. So these collector and recyclers, and they make some kind of group. And then central government make the PRO and tentatively, and conduct the demonstration project on EPR system by local government and the local green companies. Then they make a report, but it is not easy to make a report. They must make some kind of format of reporting to the PRO and the local government. So central government and local government finally evaluate the demo project to reflect the revised EPR system. Then I like to emphasize the awareness of EPR system for stakeholders. So it is difficult to understand the EPR system, and they do not understand how to participate this system. And so user-friendly education program and materials should be prepared. Also, stakeholders can easily access the necessary information in the program. And this is a kind of website. They got some kind of information. This is the example in Malaysia. And this is another example is e-waste training manuals. And so manual in Ghana. Some kind of this information, all stakeholders can easily access those informations. And to implement the demo project in EPR system, and it should be necessary to make the partnership. With the developed countries, international association or universities, and to intensify capacity of EPR system. And partnership activity is very important to implement the EPR system in Philippines, I think. So this is the example partnership between the Vietnam and Korea KOICA. So finally, I'd like to emphasize the successful introduction of EPR system in Philippines. 4 basic elements. I already mentioned about the stakeholders, responsibility and roles, and PRO and target recycling rate, and transparency of financial flow. Also, communication is very important to improve the basic recycling structure and infrastructure and management capacity of recycling facilities in the formal sectors, informal sector also. EPR system in regional level is that this is controlled by the local government, and number of target item is in the demo project. You can get the only 1 item is good. 1 or 2 item is better, I think. It should be expanded by the performance of the demo project. So recycling practice in the formal sectors by EPR systems can contribute enhance the recycling amount of waste in the formal sector as well as informal sector eventually. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Sung Wiri. The lessons and best practices from the sustainable plastic waste management in Korea will serve as a comprehensive guide in the enhancement and implementation of similar EPR policies in the Philippines. With the amount of information we got from the previous presentations from the professors from Korea, I am certain that some of us already have questions in mind. So please feel free to type in the chat box your questions and clarifications. Kindly state your name, your organization, and your organization, as we will be proceeding to the next part of the program. So the next part of the program is the sharing of policy recommendations and proposals. Joining us here today is the policy manager of the No Plastics in Nature initiative of the WWF Philippines, Attorney Ina Gingona, to share some recommendations and proposals for EPR policy and implementation in the Philippines. This will be followed by the project manager of Healthy Oceans and Clean Initiatives of the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat, Mr. Voltaire Acosta, together with the Institute of Global Environmental Strategies, IGES, represented by Dr. Velia Atienza Winmautun, and the Philippine Alliance for Recycling and Material Sustainability, or PARMS, represented by Mr. Crispian Lau. Their inputs and presentations may also set the course of discussion later in the open forum. The floor is yours, Attorney Gingona.
Good morning and thank you. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So this is our proposed scheme for the Philippines. I'll just go through it very briefly. So it all starts with eco-design and elimination of unnecessary plastics. These plastics are then sold to retailers and make its way to consumers, anything remaining. And this post-consumer waste is collected either by the LGU, private waste collectors who bring it to the local MRF, or by the informal sector in the communities. So in the informal sector, as well as consumers, can actually sell their waste directly to the junk shops as well. So the informal sector can also join a social enterprise or a cooperative and give them the waste. And these social enterprises give the waste to local MRFs that they have partnerships with. After the sorting at these MRFs, residual waste can be brought to disposal facilities or end-of-life facilities, or they can be sold to the recycling companies. So the materials that can be recycled are sold by the junk shops and the local MRFs that's working for the PRO to the recycling companies. These recycling companies sell these materials back to converters so that they may be used to create new packaging material that can be sold back again to the obliged companies for their products. But how is this financed? So it all starts with eco design and EPR fees. So the more recyclable the product, the lower the EPR fees. And so these EPR fees are paid to the PRO, and the PRO finances and coordinates with the local MRF for collection and management of the product waste. And these MRFs, through their partnerships with social enterprises, help financially support also the informal sector as well. So all of these obliged companies and the PRO are all mandated to report to the DENR, or National Solid Waste Management Commission, and and the DENR then audits and monitors them in return. So the PRO, we recommend also that they conduct IEC campaigns through NGOs to consumers to ensure compliance with the scheme, because segregation at source will have to be very essential for the scheme to work. Next slide, please. So we see the PRO, or the Producer Responsibility Organization, as the central and most important element for establishing and operating the EPR system. We recommend one mandatory PRO with an advisory board and executive board. So we want to make sure that this Producer Responsibility Organization really covers everyone that is involved in the plastics value chain, so that we can ensure that everybody's voice is heard and all systems run properly. Next slide, please. So our recommendations are really to implement a holistic EPR scheme led by a single nonprofit PRO to really unify all the multi-sectoral efforts. And then we really need to invest in recycling infrastructure to ensure sufficient economic benefit from all of these recovered materials. We also need to innovate and focus on eco-design also to reduce waste at source and really focus on the recyclability of the products that we put out there. Next slide, please. We think that it's very important to incentivize participation through fiscal or non-fiscal incentives. It's also very important to include the informal sector, because they're really the most vulnerable sector along the waste recovery chain, and we really have to protect them and make sure that they're compensated for their work as well. And we also need to institutionalize PRO support for the MRF. So we want to make sure that the funds given to the PRO by the obliged companies are used to professionalize and create a standardized setup for MRFs in the country. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Gingona, for the valuable recommendations. And without further ado, may we now call on Mr. Voltaire Acosta of the UN Habitat and Dr. Velia Atienza Winmaltun from the Institute of Global Environmental Strategies Consultant to also provide their insights.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So we'll be presenting the first part of our policy study. How it goes. Next slide, please. So just want to share. So want to share that our project is actually piloting the localization of the national plan of action on the city plans of action on marine litter. Click na lang. Sorry, naka-animate pala yan. Click na lang po many times. Sorry. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we are working with cities on the gap analysis, what they're already doing in terms of 3Rs. Next slide, please. And also city baselining, waste-wise cities tool and waste flow diagram to see where they are now and how much they're actually doing. And then, of course, the development criteria for city plan of action on monitor and how it can be mainstreamed into the sector plus. Next slide. Okay, can we click many times until the entire slide? Yeah. So we also have the youth. We conducted hackathon for some ideas, partners forum. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Yes, and then of course our pilot projects. So right now we are working with city partners and communities also in pilot testing different models next to it. So that in the end we are about to produce 4 policy papers or white papers, and that among them includes behavioral change, waste management, infra gap analysis, and how to localize the NPOA ML. And of course, the fourth one would be the extended producer responsibility. So I'll be calling on Dr. Bella Atienza to discuss what we have found so far, which is under the development process for a suitable EPR mechanism for the Philippines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Acosta. As he mentioned, so this one, the one we will be presenting is one of the output of the HOCHI project, National Policy Paper on Extended Producer Responsibility. Next slide, please. Yeah, so before I discuss the the mechanism on EPR for the Philippines, the proposed mechanism, EPR mechanism for the Philippines, let me share a bit on how we come up with that framework. First, we did the review and benchmarking of the international EPR models and also their EPR reporting schemes in Japan and other countries. In addition, we tried to review what are the existing EPR policy discussions and initiatives in the Philippines, such as the RA 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, the House Bill 10696, and the Senate Bill 2425, as also discussed earlier by Attorney Gilder. Also the WWF's EPR study and the FARM's proposed EPR scheme. Further, we also reviewed the existing EPR similar schemes in the Philippines, such as the Plastic Credit Exchange and the Plastic Bank. These organizations are doing PRO-like activities and performs recycler and or certifier functions. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the lessons that we got from this EPR discussions and also the EPR similar schemes, we proposing this collaborative EPR framework for the Philippines. As you can see here, we highlight the collaborative because although EPR is primarily focused on shifting the responsibilities to the private organizations or businesses or the obliged companies, it is also this framework highlight the relevance of the collaboration among different stakeholders such as the government, the community, and the consumers. As you can see here in the upper portion of the framework, we consider that these EPR bills, as cited earlier by Attorney Dilbert, that this has been ratified recently. So there is a higher probability that these bills will came into force very soon. So we try to consider their basic features, such as the registration of the EPR programs, as you can see in the upper portion of the framework, the roles of the National Solid Waste Commission, the National Ecology Center, and the DNR. In the middle portion, you can see the different stakeholders of the relevant stakeholders of the EPR program. So here you can see that the obliged companies and or the PROs like farms can enter into an agreement or working together on how they can achieve their EPR programs through the three possible options. It could be through waste diverters, the recyclers and processors, and also through the local government units or the PCX. Or the other EPR similar schemes like the PCX and the Plastic Bank and others. In addition, you can see in the here also is the independent accredited auditor, so that to ensure that the credibility of data and the same time that ensure that these organizations are following the EPR guidelines. In the lower part, you can see the plastic waste diversion flow, and so you can see the green arrows, the material flow, and also the monetary flow. So here, we can see that the possible strategies on how to make this EPR implementable. So the role of LGUs is very important. At the same time, also the consumers, it highlights the importance of the segregation at source to ensure that there will be, the plastic waste will not be contaminated with other types of waste, to ensure proper waste collection, recycling, and recovery. In addition, the informal waste sector should also be recognized, as mentioned earlier also. And hopefully they will also be organized later as a people's organization so that they will be more empowered and become more effective partners of the local government. So here is that's why we call this framework collaborative EPR framework for the Philippines. So the proposed collaborative framework emphasizes the significance of recognizing the role of LGUs and the community, including the informal waste sector, in making the implementation of the EPR feasible, fair, and sustainable. Next slide, please. So I just want to show some possible reporting and tracking template. As mentioned earlier, the obliged companies should submit their data reporting sheet through online portal to promote transparency and more efficient monitoring and reporting. So this could be one of the possible template wherein the company's profile, the plastic footprint will be reported. Next slide, please. And this is also sample of the app-based monitoring system. As you can see here that the movement of waste from the waste source to waste collection points to recyclers until the market. Next slide, please. And then this collaborative EPR framework is proposed for the Philippines with the following recommendations. The mandatory registration of the obliged companies to the EPR scheme, and the active partnership or collaboration between obliged companies or their designated PROs and other actors. Building an infrastructure is necessary to make EPR feasible. So the obliged companies can work can provide financial support for the LGUs in establishing this necessary infrastructure within the EPR scheme. Through PPP within EPR scheme, or they can also have interlocal collaboration, especially for those LGUs, small rural areas. And the third one is the accreditation of the waste diverters, like the recyclers and processors, and of organizations, companies during EPR similar schemes to ensure that they are following the EPR guidelines. And the fourth recommendation is to promote the collaborative activities with and among communities, incentivize recyclables collection to promote waste segregation. As mentioned, waste segregation at source is very important to make EPR possible. And the last is the inclusion of the informal waste sector and other community groups in the waste management system, such as the collection, recycling, and recovery activities. Next slide. For the takeaways and future reconsideration, back to you, Engineer Acosta.
Thank you, Dr. Atienza. So this is our last slide. Some takeaways from the discussions in our EPR policy making process. And of course, just as an information, it's nice that it's really a challenge for us to come up with a suitable EPR mechanism for the Philippines. It's even far from perfect. But what is nice about this is that we're trying to institutionalize the EPR mechanism in line with existing legal, institutional capacity structures. But some additional takeaways that we have learned so far while we're doing this is the importance of aligning with existing institutional systems. So there are many different considerations. We could have introduced any EPR model or system right away, copy paste, so to speak. But of course, we have to consider the existing one, so to make it more feasible and it could be done sustainably. So one of the things that were raised also is, aside from SWM concerns about the role of the TI or DTI bodies, especially, we also discuss about the commodity codes and stuff might also be helpful if the trade industry and product concerns could be included. Number two would be the importance of fiduciary information. So the presentation of the PSA showed material flow, monetary flow, reporting flow, and stuff like that. It's very important that it's all clear and no loop. And since you inhabit this also closely, our mantra is actually leaving no one and no place behind. So we're thinking of one, for example, one of the possibilities is, first, we have set targets on the amounts that can be recovered and retrieved and recycled. However, it does not yet address the geographical distribution because in some areas, recyclable materials are still not considered recyclable just because there is no opportunity. There's no entity that takes the materials for recycling from their area. So one of the things is how to incentivize far-flung areas, recyclables from far-flung areas to be managed ideally within the scheme, and also leaving no one behind. We have to level playing field for vulnerable groups to access and participate in the EPR scheme. That does not necessarily mean, although in the long run we hope that is the case, that the formal waste sector or the semi-formal sector would be active participants to this. Because ultimately, if there are systems, whenever there are systems, that they will not be excluded from it. So those are just some things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Acosta and Dr. Win Mautun, especially for the diagrams and frameworks that you shared. Last but not the least, may we give the floor to the founding president of the Philippine Alliance for Recycling and Material Sustainability, Mr. Crispian Lau.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share our EPR mechanism. No? I hope you guys can see my slide now. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, okay, the Philippine Alliance for Recycling and Material Sustainability made an ambitious declaration in 2020, just to give you a background, where we committed zero waste to nature by 2030. This declaration in 2020 has already or had already been translated to actual actions by the or a roadmap with the objectives of developing the strategies, enabling policies, and the glide path. And we made sure, as Voltaire always says, that we develop this with all stakeholders and we apply it. More importantly, we need to apply it to local conditions. Now, fast forward, the study actually revealed that do nothing scenario would have, leakages into the environment as what we have seen. And then we look into waste processing capabilities or capacities that we have currently and look into what needs to be done in waste processing capabilities to enable the zero waste to nature roadmap. What needs to be scaled up, what needs to be developed in the next 10 years so that we can realize our zero waste to nature ambition. Now, after evaluating this and developing the roadmap, we have presented an execute strategy scenario, and the execute strategy scenario would show you how we will address the leakages by addressing the problem and putting it back through resource recovery into the system. The diversion rate roadmap presented actually looked into some policy requirements. In the lower part, you would see labeling for packaging and, more importantly, diversion output-based EPR system. Now, let's go to the root of the topic for the day. It's all about EPR systems. No? So when you look, we made a study of all existing EPR systems around the world. And thanks to BSD, they actually formulated the whole report for us, now the Business for Sustainable Development. So again, we're looking at fee-based EPR system, which is actually being practiced. No? But we strongly believe that there's an opportunity for us to realize EPR through a credit scheme EPR system. Now, our position for EPR is a single PRO with multiple waste diverters under a competitive, standardized, transparent, accountable, and inclusive credit scheme diversion model. Now, this enables us to prevent or to address the leakages in the environment, where we will design for circularity to shift for more recyclable packaging and proper labeling so that we understand what materials at the end of life and what to do with those materials. We are looking to reduction, and we have done a lot of reduction programs through alternative delivery systems, shifting packaging to more recyclable alternatives. Now, we also look for the financing and recovery of diversion, and this is where the EPR scheme would come in. And we will present why we are looking at a credit system to be more effective for a country like the Philippines. And basically, the system, the model needs to support recovery on the ground, no? For the LGUs and commercial establishments. More importantly, you can't just keep recovering. You need to facilitate the investment in infrastructure. Now, the system that we have developed is actually needs to be, or the system, EPR system to be developed needs to be governed by standards and protocols. Now, the question is, how do you declare or how do you compute waste footprint accounting? Now, who verifies this protocol? Now, for waste diverters, what is the standard for waste diversion accounting, the validation protocol, and the verification protocol for diverters? And let's look into potentially having certification bodies that has the guidelines for accreditation and verification. And the certifying body is the one who certifies the whole system. Now, for a credit scheme EPR, we have drafted standards approved by our partner FMCGs, and now we are looking to pilot the same. In the EPR system that we have developed, slightly lag in my computer, but then we are looking at, okay, and we already have developed a portal, no? And here you define clearly the roles of each individual entity. For us, what we are looking for is that the government would look at the waste footprint, then you have the producers responsibility organization monitoring the same, the producers looking at declaring the footprint. In the shortness of time, feel free to contact me to understand this better. No? But how it works, maybe this probably might be a more simplified way of presenting it. What we intend to do is that for footprint owners to declare waste footprint, and this declaration would need to be certified by a certifying body. Now, this footprint certificate can be submitted now for records of government. Now, on the other side, you have the waste diversion credit. The waste diverter composed of waste pickers, social enterprise groups, LGUs, treaters, and recyclers. We have them already. They're all existing, no? Whether it's an LGU MRF, some social enterprise groups, recycling companies. Now, they get represented by someone, and they will declare the diversion credit, which will also need to be certified by a certifying body. Now, all this certification will actually be submitted to government. And for us in farms, we have developed a waste credit portal wherein in the EPR portal, okay, that had been developed already, you will have the actors, that will upload, the data that is needed by government. Where the footprint owners will upload their verifiable or their verified or certified footprint. The waste diverters will also upload certified credits. No? The certifying body would make sure that all of these claims are actually in place, and all this would be independent. No? And then you have the accreditation body that actually accredits the certifying body. Now, at the end of the day, the portal can also be used to exchange, not to trade. Now, meaning that if a waste diverter has something to sell, they can actually sell it in the portal. So yeah, in the interest of time, I will stop here, and we can open the floor for more, for any questions and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, everyone, for contributing to the discussions. Certainly, your recommendations and ideas will be valuable as we proceed with the future discussions, underscoring the need to mandate EPR schemes. To further solidify the discussions we had earlier, we must plan ahead, discuss ways forward, and clear out roadblocks. With this common goal in mind, we will now proceed with the stakeholder discussion, where our dear friends from the private sector, our development partners, policymakers, planners, and members of the academe may freely raise their concerns, ideas, and suggestions. Now we are opening the floor to our partners and friends who are inclined to ask a question, share inputs, or pose a suggestion. To start the ball rolling, may we call on Mr. Jasper Venningsen, Executive Director of the Nordcham Philippines, to share his inputs on the subject matter.
Thank you so much. Very, very inspiring information that has been shared. Lots of great progress and lots of even more ideas to follow. I'm really happy about it. Only being a resident here in the Philippines for the last 4 years, but coming from Denmark, coming from the Nordic countries and representing the Nordic Chamber, we are of course proud of our sustainability efforts, and I'm very happy that I'm being allowed to share some of it here. Let me just share my screen. That was the wrong presentation, sorry about that. Here, very brief, some comments from my side on Nordic inputs on waste management. So in Nordics, we would say know your waste, reduce it and sort it to enable productive and economic viable solutions to waste management. And you should reduce undesired waste, and that could be, here in the Philippines, there's so many aluminum coated sackets that is not easy to deal with. In the Nordics, we are all for increasing recycling. We have fees, or you can call it a deposit on bottles, and we use a smart reverse vending machine. Actually, you know, a bottle is usually priced at more than 50 pesos, and you will get that money back as soon as you return it. So there's barely any bottles out in the society, nowhere, no in landfill, anything. It's properly reused. Also, there's fee on any bags, even plastic bags, when doing grocery. That means people bring their own. So those are just some simple things that's done. I know 30 pesos is a lot of money for some people, but it's still something that will drive it in the right directions. Then also what is also done in the Nordic countries is that shop must accept to receive back any packaging materials from the products, and the shops must manage it properly. They usually work with the suppliers to improve how that's done. And of course, to reduce it and have more easily recyclable and waste that is easier to dispose of in a proper way. There's also a lot of focus on repurposing of materials. So meaning using it for a different purpose. Right? And then one of the reasons why I asked my questions on waste to energy and incineration, because a lot of the waste generated in the Nordic countries is burned. I will have a follow-up slide on this, but you will see that it's like, yeah, it's a lot of it. So that is done in a proper way where, you know, the air quality, I would say, is very high. There's no actual pollution. As long as it's done in a professional way with modern methods, that works very well. It's done also in several locations, I mean, centralized locations, opposed to many smaller ones. So this is also making it feasible. And of course, the benefit from waste to energy facilities that's incinerating is that the ash and also other byproducts, they can be used for instance, road construction materials. So, I mean, in general, actually, we in the Nordic countries, we don't create enough waste to fuel these energy plants, actually. So we import waste from the neighbors to keep the facilities going. Last, and also relevant for the Philippines recommendation somehow, or looking into, and I know it's done already, landfill biogas, LFG, use the methane for biogas or with biogas solutions instead of just letting it evaporate into the air. This is just a few more inputs, 2 more slides. So in globally, we have a problem with plastic, of course, right? It has increased so much over the last 50 years. I would say in the Nordics, how is the plastic managed? So as mentioned, incineration is a lot of it. Very little goes into a landfill, 2% only. We export some of the plastic waste This is numbers from Denmark. Sorry, I should have mentioned that before. Numbers from Denmark. We export some of it to Sweden. They have better reusable facilities, and also to UK. And then we reuse some of it ourselves. So the export of plastic waste is not really for, for it to be put in a landfill or dealt with in somewhere else. This is for it to be dealt with in a proper way. Waste in general, 50% of it is being reused. This is household waste. 1% goes into landfill, so there's still some, but majority, or well, 49% of it is being incinerated and generates energy. How is it done? I said before that you need to manage it, you need to sort it. This is the waste bins that every household has and must use. So as you can see here, there's some labels on. There's 4 different compartments, or 2 different in each. You must sort it. If you do not do that as a family, as a whole household owner, you will be fined, or your garbage will not be collected, and then you have to deal with it yourself. But you will be fined. So it's important that it's being sorted. Every individual knows that, and it's taught in schools. So that's one way of making it easier to manage it, and ensuring that incineration can be done properly. Last slide for me, and this is just a showcase of one of the solutions on an incineration plant. Something from Denmark. Again, I'm from Denmark, sorry about that. Amager Bakke, or Copenhagen it's called. It's a state-of-the-art new standards for environment performance, energy efficiency, and waste treatment capacity. And I mean, as you can see on the picture on the right, that's the actual plant, how it looks like. It was a picture from last year. There's a skiing slope. There's a lot of different kind of recreation opportunities. It's actually a very popular park and recreation area in Copenhagen that the people, they go to and visit. A lot of fun can be done on incineration process plant. The plant treats around 400,000 tons of waste annually. That's produced by around 600,000 people and at least 46,000 companies. So all of that waste goes there, and it supplies a minimum of 50,000 households with electricity. And well, in Denmark, it's cold during half of the year, so there's also a lot of households that will get district heating. It costs $670 million US, not cheap, but certainly worth it, and the capacity is 57 megawatt. That was my presentation. That was kind of my reaction to it. Again, I would say there's so much good progress, work in progress here. Really impressed with it. And from Nordic Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines side, we are happy to be here and try to help out. If you have any questions to any of these solutions or how we do things, I can be contacted. I will just share my contact details later. Thank you for allowing me to give you, ladies and gentlemen, this very brief and fast reaction to your great work done.
Thank you, Mr. Svenningsen, for sharing how the Nordic countries such as Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden are managing their waste, especially plastic waste. It is indeed that global efforts are needed to address the plastic waste problem. So now at this point, may we call on a participant from PARMS. I believe he raised his hand, Bonar Laureto, to maybe you have your question, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to share insights as well. So I'm speaking on behalf of PARMS as one of those developers of the EPR model that PARMS have developed. First comment, I'll speak on 2 levels. One is in a tactical, technical level. One is in a strategical level. On a tactical level, I appreciate that Dr. Vela Atienza has put together a harmonized EPR model that can consolidate and connect and make the different models available more collaborative. However, there's one very critical thing that I feel needs to be brought up, which we think at the PARMS level must be thought of very carefully, because it determines based on our studies, it determines the success and long-term viability of the EPR. And that is the difference in perspective of the way the obliged companies will pay and cover the cost. So the proposal of Dr. Chienza provides for a fee-based, meaning the company will have to pay upfront money and transfer that to EPR. We feel that a credit-based is more effective because that relies on an actual outcome of recovery on the ground. And when there is a recovery on the ground and it is verified and there's an issuance of diversion credits, only then will the company spend the finance to be able to cover and buy those credits. The fundamental difference is that the major drawback of setting fees is around the fact that the diversity of packaging materials and the diversity of locations where they come from will make it very, very hard to set what is the amount of fee that is appropriate for any given company to pay. Not being able to set a standardized fee will make it unfair for different companies operating in the Philippines. It will not set a level playing field. So that concern will be addressed if you have an actual diversion on the ground and there's an actual cost of recovery wherever they are, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and on the basis of what kinds of packaging you brought into the market, whether it's flexible and rigid, you are those credits or cover for the recovery of those credits, depending on the kind of materials you put into the market. That will actually make also provide for the market mechanism for companies to shift from the more difficult to recover materials to materials that are more circular in nature. So that very important point, I think, is critical, needs to be considered, because we feel having this nuance in the way the EPR system is made will spell the difference of a success or a failure in a country like the Philippines. On a broad level, high level, I'd like to provide comments that there's actually an opportunity around the spurring of investment of recycling and recovery and recycling infrastructure. We have to stress, though, that in this increase in recovery will require certain jobs, certain employment, but this employment needs to be decent. The decent work standards need to be observed. There's a risk that a lot of this recovery will have conditions that are not very conducive for these employees, and that needs to be emphasized. On the other hand, the creation of these jobs, when they are decent, they can be considered as green jobs. And we do have a law, Green Jobs Act, that provides for incentives for those companies who invest in industries like recycling that fosters green jobs. There's fiscal incentives, 50% of the cost of training or research and development can be chargeable against or deductible against taxable income. I think aligning green jobs, decent work, conversation of EPR is a very good, important way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights for having to achieve success for the EPR policy here in the Philippines. We'll check our chat box. We actually receive a question on the PRO. So I think this can be addressed to Professors Yong Chul Jang and Professor Sung Wiri. Regarding the encouraging to have multiple PRO, and this is according to the question. This is to prevent monopoly and abuse. So because EPR is not only for plastics but also other materials, other countries are using multiple PRO. So it is strongly recommended to have multiple PRO instead of only one. So any comments, or what are your comments, Professor?
Yeah, that's a good question. My name is Yong Cho Jang, and regarding the PRO, there's maybe some confusions among the audiences. The PRO is a product responsibility organization, as you know. And in Korea case, packaging waste, plastic packaging, especially like bottles, cans, and plastic packaging. These are the one PRO we have. How about batteries? Battery also have one PRO, product responsibility organizations, like all the battery makers, manufacturers, importers, and also, let's say, electronics. We also have one PRO, Korea Electronic Recycling associations, organizations. That's the one PRO. So meaning is just one items per one PRO. But in European country, there are sometimes you have a packaging waste, the packaging material. There are several producer responsibility organizations for packaging material. For example, like bottles, and the glass bottles, and plastic packaging. They have several organizations by competitions. So, but in Korea, we have only one item per PRO. That's what I'm talking about, mono PRO system. So in Asian country, if you have several multiple PROs, it's not easy to control. This is like in a competitive ways. It may be more efficient, but from our perspective, the national government should to assign specific target goal for each for the PRO. You have a PET bottle, make sure you're 80%. But how do we decide 80%? That's some kind of a scientific study, and how much we can collect PET bottle, PET plastic bottle. I think based on our recycling infra and collection infrastructure, I think we can collect 60% or 70%, 80%. That's some kind of a negotiation between industry, we can make producers and recyclers and government. So we decide that. So that's what I'm talking. We are talking about mono PRO system. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yong Chuljang. If I may call Professor Sungwiri, if you have any additional comments or insights on that question on PRO.
We have the strong point of mono PRO systems, and that means and producer got the more responsibility. That means producer can support the financial support. So they can build the infrastructure of recycling. For example, we can make decide the recycling target. Initially is 10%. So there is only small infrastructure of recycling. Central government asks the producer or importers, you must build infrastructure of 10% recycling. Something like that. That is the mono PRO system is got a strong point. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insights, and I hope that provided more clarity in terms of the PRO. And I can see the hand of Mr. Crispian Lau being raised. Sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for considering raised hand. Now, basically for us in farms, we made an in-depth study of the existing systems. No? We fully support a single PRO system, but then in a landscape like the Philippines, it cannot be a monopoly. Okay, to address the monopolistic tendency of what a PRO can bring, the model that we have developed actually does not point to a PRO to do actual recovery or do contracting. No? Models of developed countries where infrastructure is in place actually has the PRO working with the waste management company. For us, we want to shift the lever with the PRO, which will develop a system. So what we want, we would rather call it a single PRO system where everybody abides by certain rules, calculation of footprints, and diversion of credits are standardized. Now, if you are able to do that, what we are advocating for is while you have a single PRO system, you have to have multiple waste diverters that would actually benefit from fees or credits that would be paid. No? In the Philippines, as we are archipelagic, 42,042 barangays that has MRF. No? Companies can now support activities of a barangay MRF so that we can have a higher rate of compliance in setting up MRFs for barangay units. So that's how we perceive the system. No? While the law now declares or points to multiple PRO system or multiple PROs to do actual recovery on behalf of the producers, I think this can be resolved if we develop a singular system for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights. And I can see another raised hand. May I call on Juno Shrestha from the World Bank?
Thank you, Ms. Maria. It's a short point, and thank you for this very rich discussion. It's been really good to be a part of this. I think the main point here, I wanted to raise is such discussions are necessary, like we just saw, right? There are different views, and for the government to be able to listen to them, pluses and minuses, and different aspects of EPR. It's not a single solution that can cure all. It's a part of a bigger network of policies and investments, right? And then for different stakeholders, like we just saw, Mr. Christopher Lau and others talking about it, raising very important points to have these dialogues going and for us to be a part of it to support. So we welcome this very much. And one other point is, all countries, including the Philippines, is going towards, it's not just about plastics, right? Plastics is one of the products. It's a circular economy sort of a question that we are leading towards, going from linear to circular, and EPR is a key element that we're looking at, Philippines is looking at as a vehicle to go from linear to the circular economy. And some of the things that are different or unique in the Philippines, like Mr. Lau and others just mentioned, is the island nature of the country, right? What do we do about it? It's not the same as Korea. So it's contextualizing is important. Bringing information from different sources, but contextualizing is important. And without these discussions, it can't happen. The other is informal sector that we've been seeing again and again and again. How do we integrate them into the proper sort of context? There are some of the solutions that came out in the discussion already. Green Jobs Act is very important, and we need to study more, look into that more. How can we leverage that so that in terms of green resilience sort of recovery, we can bring incentives to the informal sectors or smaller SMEs, like with the EPR study we just finished, in which Dr. Ree, Dr. Yang were a part of. SMEs of different categories and companies of different categories, how do we deal with them? Or are they a part of EPR system? How do we include them into the EPR system? That's important to look into, right? Because not SMEs are the same. How do we also get them into green sort of certification is important, right? Training, capacity building becomes a part of it. Oh, I'm sharing all this just to share that it's not simple. There are different elements within EPR that needs to be looked into, but it's promising. And coming from linear to circular economy, one issue that I want to raise is incineration is not bad, but that cannot be the only solution. That cannot be the solution we run towards either, because it's linear again, right? Once you have done the recovery, once you have done the recycling, what is left can be incinerated in dioxin-free, in pollution-free, furan-free way. And that is one of the solutions that can be looked at, but not to see, oh, we can incinerate in a proper way right away with modern technology, without having the proper recycling, proper recovery. That could lead us to more issues, right? And the product ash and others can be used, yes, but I wanted to really share that we do need to think about it in a more circular manner. So I stop there. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you, Juno. For the last question, we acknowledge from NutriAsia in the chat box. If I may read the question, to support upstream in the EPR, will there be a program as well for the study exploration of alternative materials via introduction of suppliers, testing facility, etc., to help in the development of more sustainable and cheaper material options? We can call on participants from the House Committee or perhaps our colleagues from the DNR, and they can also provide the reflections or from the earlier presentations and discussions.
Well, if I may start.
Okay.
Keep the ball rolling. All right. Well, for the establishment of a framework under Article 1 of the proposed Article 1 of the EPR, well, it would be necessary that a program should be developed wherein you would be adopting or somewhat consider exploration of alternative materials. Well, that you would be needing to make it to make the products more environment friendly. So the coming up with this facilities necessary to make the reduction of the upstream and the lower stream necessary to make it work well. It would be developed, and it is really expected that the framework would really cover this, would really address these concerns. Well, secondly, on the PRO in the bill was just a recommendation wherein two or more people, two or more enterprises could unite for a common purpose, just so that they could come up with the reduction of their products, with the compliance of the recovery targets as may be stipulated in the law. But if there would be a single PRO, we may call it a centralized PRO, if the same would be necessary to make it work, that is not really that is not really prohibited in the law. My point is, if you want to have a centralized PRO, just so we could make this the implementation of EPR really efficient, then we could have it. I would believe that our implementing agency, the DNR, the National Solid Waste Management Commission, are noting this proposal. When it is necessary, then we could have it if it's multiple as suggested by Professor Yong Chul Jang. Well, we could have it as long as it would, if it, as long as it would achieve our purposes or the purposes of BPR, then we can go ahead with these methods. Thank you.
I have one quick comments, the short comments. Under the EPR system, some European country, as well as in Korea, also for the upstream part, there is some kind of economic incentive. If you make a product eco-friendly, then there is some eco modulation fee. So producers pay less their fee than the regular product because they make some eco-friendly product. That's we call it eco modulation fee under the by EPR system. There's a short comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney and Professor. So if we may invite our colleagues from the DNR for their insights and reflections.
Yes, good noon to everyone. Our insights is that in the full implementation of the EPR, the extended producer responsibility, the government, all the sectors, including the government, the manufacturers, should ensure the readiness of the necessary institutional structures and mechanism for our country to be successful in implementing this EPR. Since we have a common objective, we know that both the government and the manufacturers have a common goal, which is to ensure the recovery of these post-consumer products, the products that they manufacture, to ensure the proper or effective and efficient recycling of these products, and so that we will no longer use more of the virgin or the raw materials of our natural resources. So we have to have an effective partnership among the government and the private sector, the manufacturers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Juvie. So I hope all questions and concerns have already been addressed, but for further questions and other comments, you may send them directly to the email ocrh@climate.gov.ph. So at this point, allow me to thank and congratulate each and every one of us for the productive exchange of knowledge, ideas, and recommendations. We have reached the end of this session. I would like to call on Commissioner Rachel Ann Herrera from the Climate Change Commission to deliver her closing message.
Thank you very much, Maria Ronelli. Good noon, magandang tanghali po to all our partners, stakeholders, and experts joining us today. I hope that the rich discussion today has widened our appreciation of the potential impacts, costs, and benefits of implementing EPR here in the Philippines for plastics and other waste. And through this knowledge exchange, we hope that you were able to look at the policy landscape, assess the national case for an EPR program here, and acknowledge as well the potential hurdles we will face in the immediate and the long term. We thank our two distinguished professors from Korea. We are seeing through them that there is a way for a successful implementation and management of the reduction, reuse, and recycling of plastic wastes through EPR. But they have been at it for almost 20 years, and our discussion today serves as a practical guide for the Philippines to hopefully leapfrog in terms of systems and processes and to match their success in our own context. We know it should only be the start of more collaboration and active sharing of knowledge, so I take this opportunity to encourage and request the support of the different institutions, members of the industry, academia, and government agencies here now as we foresee the convening of more deep dive sessions in the future. In closing, let me say that the policy reform on any matter, and especially on a problem like plastic waste, is already so massive and entrenched that this is a huge challenge that we continue to face years or decades after the passage of RA 9003. But we should not fear change, because in this case, it is a necessary step for a green recovery for the country. And it is also a measured risk that we can take, not only because of the problems of enforcing the existing laws, but because of the urgency of the climate crisis. And through the EPR and other future policies that we hope to push, we are moving closer towards a circular economy. And this will be part of our contribution towards a net zero world in line with our climate targets in the NDC. And as mentioned by our colleague from the World Bank, circularity reduces emissions and helps alleviate the pressure on the environment and our natural resources. Congress has made its move in passing the EPR, and we hear their call for all Filipinos, all of us here, to commit to solving the problems collectively. We can make a zero waste Philippines possible. Our special thanks to colleagues from the DNR and the Department of Finance, our designated chairperson of the CCC, our partners in the World Bank, for co-convening this knowledge exchange. And thank you to Professors Yong-Chul Jan and Sung Wee Ri for your precious time and knowledge. Thank you all on behalf of the Climate Change Commission. I wish you all a good day ahead.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rachel Ann Herrera, for providing us a clear way forward. Again, we would like to express our utmost gratitude to everyone, our distinguished guest speakers and development partners, for your invaluable participation. It's been a pleasure to be your host. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.